6, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement that, quote, "We are boosting New Zealand's superannuation and veterans' pension to fairly compensate for the GST rise"?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, because that's what the facts clearly show. After 1 October, superannuation rates will immediately be increased by 2.02% to compensate for the price effects of raising GST. In addition to this, superannuitants will get the benefit of lower income tax rates, which will increase the amount of super they receive in the hand. As a result of both these increases, superannuitants will more than be compensated for the rise in GST.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. When he told single superannuitants living alone that they'd be $15 a week better off on the 1st of October, does that mean superannuitants will have $15 extra after they have paid for the increase in GST on all goods and services, other government charges such as ACC, the cost of ETS and inflation? If not, what did he mean?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the first thing I should have told them is they were right to vote national, because otherwise the ETS would have been twice as expensive under Labor. But Mr Speaker, what I would tell them is the same thing that every government has told the superannuitants since New Zealand superannuation was brought in, and that is general increases in the overall cost base are met with the CPI adjustment that takes place on 1 April of every year.
Supplementary question.
Chris Tremaine.
Mr Speaker, to the Prime Minister, how much more will superannuitants receive in the hand after the 1st of October?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Minister of Finance earlier used an example of a married couple who are retired and receiving superannuation. Under the 1 October tax changes, they will get a tax cut of $11.52 a week, plus an increase of $10.12 a week as a result of GST going up. That makes a total of $21.64 a week. It's worth noting that since 2008, tax cuts and ongoing price adjustments have meant that this couple will have seen their super payments go up by a grand total of $71.26 a week, or just over $3,700 a year.
The Honourable Annette King.
Question, Mr Speaker. Has he received correspondence from single superannuitants pointing out that after paying the increased cost of power, telephone, rates, bus fares, doctors' bills, insurance and groceries, they will in fact be worse off? And does he think that they're incapable of working out the tax switch that affects their back pocket?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't see all the correspondence that comes into my office, but if a letter came in of such nature, I would go back to that superannuitant and say this. One, they will be better off absolutely as a result of the GST tax cut switch. Secondly, any changes that affect the overall price base, electricity and the likes, will, under our government, as they were in previous governments, be updated on 1 April of each year. And thirdly, I would point out that this government's been running an inflation rate which has been substantially lower than the previous government, because we have got good economic management skills.
The Honourable Annette King.
Does he consider spending over $250,000 to send a letter to all superannuitants in New Zealand which fails to tell them how much GST they will pay, the impact of the ETS and other increases in government charges and increased inflation will have on their tax switch, is good use of taxpayers' money?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, firstly, I can't confirm how much the letter I sent out cost, because I don't genuinely know. But what I do know is every dollar of taxpayer money that was spent on that letter was a better dollar invested than the one sent out by that Mickey Mouse party yesterday that didn't even convince a scuba diver that GST was a 15% responsibility of this government.
The Honourable Annette King.
Has anyone explained the meaning of double standards to him when he criticises Labor's GST pamphlet, which cost a fraction of the $250,000 he has spent on a letter to superannuitants, not telling them the whole truth about what will be left in their pockets after the 1st of October?
Order. I apologise to the Honourable Member, but I say to National Party members, I struggled to hear the member asking a question. And just to encourage them to be a little more reasonable in their interjections, I'll invite the Honourable Annette King to repeat her question so that I can hear it.
I asked the Prime Minister, has anyone explained the meaning of double standards to him when he criticises Labor's expenditure on a GST pamphlet, which cost a fraction of the $250,000 plus he spent on sending a letter to superannuitants that fails to tell them what will be left in their pocket after the 1st of October?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, but I did manage to watch TV3 News last night that pointed out that hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders are going to get a brochure from the Labour Party, which is nothing short of a lie.
That's Tremaine.
Supplementary. Yeah.
Now I say again to National Party members, one of their own, in fact their own senior whip is seeking to ask a supplementary question, and they would be advised to show their senior whip some courtesy. Chris Tremaine.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister name just one other country in the world with GST at 15% or higher that does not exempt fresh fruit and vegetables?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I thank the member for re-asking Phil Goff's question. I say he did it better than Phil Goff did yesterday. I'm advised that 23 OECD countries have GST or VAT rates of at least 15%. Of those 23 countries, only Mexico and the UK have no GST or VAT on fresh fruit and vegetables.
Chris Tremaine.
To the Prime Minister. Has the Prime Minister seen any reports on exempting certain goods from GST?
The Right Honourable
Speaker,
Prime Minister.
Yes, the issue of exempting certain basic necessities from GST was discussed in the Tax Working Group's report earlier this year. Tax Working Group rejected this idea, however, saying narrowing the GST base would substantially reduce the efficiency of the tax and increase compliance and administration costs while having limited impact on equality. For example, removing food from the base makes almost no difference to the distribution of tax across income levels, but loses 20% of the GST value. This is a fall in revenue which would need to be recovered by higher rates of GST or increasing other taxes. Mr Speaker, there was a time when the Labour Party knew that the GST system we had in New Zealand was the right one. That was a time when they weren't desperate.
The Honourable Annette King.
Speaker, did he promise not to increase GST before the last election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I said I had no intentions of raising GST to cover the deficit, and we're not. And Mr Speaker, you see, this is the reason.
Order. Order. I want to be able to hear the Prime Minister.
And this is the reason, Mr Speaker, that I'll make this prediction. We will not go into 2011 with Phil Goff reversing this policy. Why not? Because when New Zealanders get their $4 billion of personal tax cuts, they aren't going to want Phil Goff and his bunch of muppets to take them away.
Question number 7, Louise Upston.
Thank you, Mr.